Welcome everyone to another episode of Mental Unblock. This is your host Omar, and this week we host yet another amazing entrepreneur with an amazing story to tell. And this one seems like she can do it all. She's not only a wife or the mother of 3 kids, but she's also the co-founder of bait.com. And if that wasn't enough, she's also the founder and CEO of Mumzwolrd. Muna Ataya, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
It is a pleasure having you. So, Muna, take us a little bit back in time. Tell us a little bit about where you were born, where you were brought up, what your childhood was like, your family, and so on.
Okay. I was born and raised in Kuwait. I'm the second of 5 children. We're 3 girls and 2 boys. I had a wonderful childhood filled with adventure and learning. That's it.
Cool. So you lived in Kuwait. You had a great childhood. How did you end up in Dubai? I know you went to the U.S. and from the U.S. you graduated. So very quickly walk us through that. But
Sure.
tell us how and when did you end up in Dubai?
Graduated from high school in Kuwait, went to the United States, did our undergrad years in the U.S. The Kuwait invasion happened in Kuwait, so we were unable to return back home. So the family mobilized to the United States, where the siblings then moved. I started working in the US, first with Procter & Gamble, and I stayed in the US and in Europe for many, many years before I came back to the region.
Right. So what year did you move to the UAE?
In 2000.
Right.
I had come actually for a few years before that,
Okay.
and then I moved back in 2000.
Right, excellent. So, from a very young age, I watched some of your interviews, and there's one story that you seem to talk about. From a very young age, you mentioned the story of your father giving you guys some bubble gum and telling you if you wanted more, you had to sell it or something like. The reason why I ask you this question is, I wanted your opinion. Do you think entrepreneurs are born, or in your case, maybe made, or both? Entrepreneurs
have typically an overlap in character traits. I can speak for myself. I've always been a problem solver. I've always loved to learn. I've always believed that I could create things from nothing. And I always believed that things were never out of reach. So was that a trait, or were these traits that I was born with, or did I develop them in nurture over the years? I think it's a combination of both.
Okay. All right. Now, also, for those out there who don't know what Mumzwolrd are, and I doubt there are some people that don't, maybe mainly parents would. Let's call it a 30-second challenge. In 30 seconds or less, tell us what Mumzwolrd is.
Okay. Mumzwolrd is the largest platform for shopping for everything mother, baby, and child, where mothers can search, compare, and buy from the largest choice of products at the best everyday low prices, delivered to her door very quickly. We're essentially empowering mothers to make the most informed purchase decisions for their children. And we fundamentally believe when you empower a mother, you empower a child, you change the world.
Right. Now, what inspired you to start Mumzwolrd? Is it because you are a mother of 3? Was that the main drive behind it? In fact, sorry, before you answer that, let's go back just a little bit, and I wanted to ask you. You were the co-founder at bait.com.
Yes.
What happened there? Did things not work out? I mean, why did you leave?
I'm still a shareholder at bait.com. Bait.com was and continues to be a very important success story in the region. I left my corporate job to come and join the bait.com entrepreneurial team to create impact in the region. Back then, connecting job seekers and employers together was very difficult, so bait.com set out to change the ecosystem and the playing field, and it did. It became a profitable business within the first year. It was a venture-funded business very quickly, and continued to double and triple in volume year after year. And 18 years later, bait.com is still there. I left my day-to-day job at Bait because I saw a important opportunity with Mumzwolrd, and an opportunity that was very dear to my heart and to my personal experiences as a mother.
So what inspired you to start Mumzwolrd?
So as as an entrepreneur on one side and as a mother on the other side, I experienced firsthand the challenges mothers had. Access to choice was limited in the region, prices were very high, information about the products didn't exist, the region is very fragmented, so getting to the products you wanted when you want them was difficult. As a mother, I did not feel empowered. I always felt that I wasn't making the ideal decisions for my children because of lack of choice in the market. So Mumzwolrd really set out to solve these problems.
I don't want to deviate too much from the talk, but very quickly, do you feel that women in this part of the world need further empowerment?
So the word empowerment is almost the flavor of the decade.
Sure.
So I think every human being, whether you're a male or a female, an adult or a child, can be empowered if they have the resources, tools, and information to make decisions. And it is one's own prerogative to kind of seek that empowerment.
Right. So do you feel that, or do you think that females here in this part of the world actually do have all the tools and all the resources necessary to start a business, let's say, or to succeed?
So whether you're a woman or man, starting a business is, in this part of the world, is now evolving. So 7 years ago, it was more difficult than it is today. Today, it's going to be more difficult than it is in 7 years from today. So the whole ecosystem for entrepreneurship is actually changing. Do women and men have the same opportunities out there? I perhaps idealistically believe they do. Okay. I believe a woman and a man, as long as you have the drive and the why and the right idea that's customer-centric, you can do whatever you want to do.
Excellent. Now, tell us when you left Bait and when you first started Mumzwolrd. What were some of the most difficult moments in actually bringing Mumzwolrd to life? Was it the funding? Was it the staffing? Was it the technology? What were the most difficult aspects that you had to deal with?
So leaving Bait and starting Mumzwolrd was probably the hardest tipping point decision of my life. Why? Because my career at Bait, that was on a steep growth trajectory, and I was very happy. To move away from that was risky. And to move away from that into an unknown was also risky, and I had 3 children also that I was taking care of. So to make that leap of faith was not an easy one. But I knew fundamentally that the concept of Mumzwolrd and the idea behind Mumzwolrd was so important in the region. And if I did nothing else but empower myself as a mother to make the more informed decisions for my children and to get them the product and the resources they need to become great human beings, if I did nothing else but do that for myself, then I would have succeeded. So I almost felt that it was important to start Mumzwolrd. It wasn't so much an option, it was important. And I'll have to also add, I remember I had given myself the challenge that summer, and I said, if I'm able to develop the wireframe for this business, because I had done the business plan already, but if I'm able to develop the technical wireframe myself and draw it out, then I'm going to do this. Then I'm going to do this business. And what happened over the summer is I did develop the wireframe. I was getting call after call from people who knew what I was up to, saying, we're going to invest. We would like to put in seed funding. So the pieces of the puzzle almost fit together naturally. And when I turned to my husband and I told him, I said, listen, I don't think I have the bandwidth to start another business. I have 3 children. This is e-commerce in an ecosystem that's underdeveloped. I'm afraid I don't have the bandwidth. And my husband turned to me and said, if anybody can do it, you can. And because you fundamentally believe that this is an important idea that will tip the needle, you need to do it. And that's when I took the leap of faith.
That is absolutely amazing. Now, you started, you got the wireframe, you had a few people approach you for seed funding. Did you acquire funding at that point? Speaking of funding, I think you're currently either in the process of raising funding or you just closed quite a large round.
Yes, we've raised 7 rounds so far. We are now we'll be announcing next week a very large round, the largest round to date. So we've been very blessed that we've moved from angel funding to women funding. I wanted to get the women of the region involved in the business, to VC funding, strategic investor fundings. We have two of the largest strategic investors, the largest FMCG conglomerates invested in Mumzwolrd. We're an Endeavor business as well. So we have some of the best VCs and investors in the business. So, so from a financial standpoint, we have the luxury to grow as fast as we want and to give the customers what they really want and what we set out to do, essentially.
According to Muna, what is the step-by-step process one should take when starting a business or trying to get something off the ground?
The core elements for an entrepreneur to get a business off the ground is, one, to be 110% passionate about the why you're doing what you're doing. You really have to be passionate. You have to believe in it, you have to love it, and you have to know that this is going to create an impact in this world. It's not only about the money. It's not. In fact, it's not about the money. It's about the impact. So what's going to get you up every day? What's going to keep you working 20-hour days, 365 days a year? What's going to get you away from your children and your family? It has to be such a passionate impact story. That's the first. And the second thing is, again, we've heard this many times before, it's this notion of resilience and grit. It's about, you know what, whatever comes my way is part of solving the puzzle. Whatever comes my way, I'm gonna take it, and I'm gonna learn from it, and I'm gonna move on. And as long as you have that mindset, it becomes a journey as opposed to a challenge.
Okay. I've had a few entrepreneurs that, share the same thoughts as well, and they would say sometimes, it's not about the money, you have to love what you do. Is that real, though? I mean, is it really not about the money? Does the money not play an aspect in this? Because if that was the case, and I've said this to my entrepreneurs, you would have made your business a charity. So the money does play a role to an extent, doesn't it?
So look, you cannot build a business if you're not financially successful. So let's be realistic. So you need to build a financially viable, profitable, sustainable business. That's the first and foremost. And you can't change the world if you don't have the resources to do so. So your business needs to be, and again, when you're creating intrinsic value in a business, and you're executing it with excellence and doing innovative things that nobody else is doing, you're going to make money. And when you make money, guess what happens? You can be more innovative. You can go down the next path. And that's when you create impact. You don't create impact by shooting in the dark and being idealistic.
Okay. Now, tell me a little bit about what are some of the things that made Mumzwolrd successful in your opinion? I mean, I think it is a unique concept to the region. Yeah. You started something unique before anyone else, or you beat them to the punch, so obviously that helped. But what are the other elements that actually truly make Mumzwolrd successful?
To summarize it really in two words, we are, in our DNA, customer obsessed. Okay. We are customer obsessed because we're the customers. I'm the customer. And we understand what the customer is looking for. We understand her pain point. We understand her limitation. And everything we do in the organization is about solving these problems for the customer. And specifically for the mother, empowering her so she can raise great kids. The line extensions that we launch, when we weigh two different line extensions, which one do we choose? We choose the one that's innovative in solving a customer problem, as opposed to the one that's going to generate the most short-term income. It's the long-term customer value.
I want to ask what your relationship typically is. What is it like with your staff? And the reason why I say this, and again, I'm not implying anything negative, but before I interviewed you, I actually had a few people say this. To be exact, 3. Somebody said, oh, she's a shrewd businesswoman. That could be looked at in a positive or negative way. It depends. I had somebody that said she works her team to the ground. She has no mercy with them. What is your response to that?
My style in management, if that's what you're asking me, I have a very almost laissez-faire style in management, in the sense that I hire A players. They are very clear on the excellence that we want to achieve for our customer, and they run. And I would hope I would hope to be an example in the drive for excellence, because I live by what I preach, and people see me working a lot. People see me very pedantic about the details. People see me very obsessed with customer pain, so they see that. And when they see the leader obsessed with the customer pain, that translates to the rest of the DNA of the organization.
As a founder and CEO of Mumzwolrd, this is obviously your baby, you're very passionate about it. What are some of the things that you actually fear when it comes to the business? What are the things that worry you about the business, things that could happen, that could jeopardize the business?
I generally don't fear much. I plan. There are challenges in the ecosystem, certainly, that we face every day. So the challenges today are, because of the very fluid ecosystem, are very different than the challenges even a year ago. But the things that challenge us are the enablers in the e-commerce ecosystem that are still not sophisticated. So, for example, the courier system that isn't yet as fast as we would like it to be. Payment gateways that are still not as sophisticated as they should be. Suppliers that still don't have sophisticated ERPs. So there are many touch points that ultimately impact us in our journey to fulfilling an order. And that is the challenge today that kind of keeps us up at night. So how do we overcome these ecosystem challenges so that the customer doesn't feel it? And now ultimately, again, the reality is e-commerce is evolving, and I believe even in 6 months from today, the customer will see a very large shift in time to delivery, in quality to delivery, because the ecosystem is shaping up. With our current fundraising, we are building out an entire fleet of our own drivers, so we become less reliant. We're moving, this is the 6th time we have moved to warehouses in 6 years. Every year we're moving to bigger warehouses. What that means for the customer is products are at our fingertip faster, so she'll get her product faster. The prime deliveries get to her within hours as opposed to within a couple of days. So we are, with this new funding, building out our own kind of ecosystem to make that customer experience even better.
Kudos, obviously, for doing what you're doing. But I can't help but think, as a father, after this entire discussion, that I feel a little left out. What happened to dads?
Sure.
Are fathers considered customers to Mumzwolrd? Sure. Have you maybe thought of doing, like a dad's world or something?
Sure. So that's a great question. Dads are not excluded. On the contrary, a dad who believes that his wife is empowered is an empowered dad as well. So the dad ultimately who believes that his wife has bought that right stroller, that educational toy, that book that she reads with the child at night, if he feels his wife is inspired and empowered, then he in turn is inspired and empowered. Hence why the world, or the word Mumzwolrd came about.
I'll be honest with you, Muna. I mean, I really love the way you light up when you talk about your company. You can see that it's quite genuine, and that is very inspirational to me, is seeing how much you actually care about your business. And it makes sense, obviously, when you're telling people that if you're going to do something you're passionate about. Now, what are some of the... Give me an example of some of the most difficult moments or difficult decisions that you had to face when you were setting up Mumzwolrd, all the way from the beginning and up until now. What are some of the most difficult decisions or difficult moments that you faced during this journey?
The first difficult moment, I think, is the juggle between entrepreneurship and motherhood. So it's the constant balance to reach equilibrium between entrepreneurship and motherhood. That's a daily challenge.
If I could interrupt, sorry. I'm glad you mentioned that, and tell us more. A lot of the entrepreneurs that I've had on the show, I don't want to say how many, but quite a few of them, male or female, I found out were either divorced or separated, and I couldn't help but notice some sort of pattern here. In your case, again, I mean, you're saying that it was quite difficult to juggle that. How did you manage to juggle it? I mean, is there some sort of secret to it for entrepreneurs that are out there that might be going through difficulties in their marital lives? How did you deal with
Sure.
it? Being a mother of not one, two, but three children, being a wife, and also being an entrepreneur not once, but at least twice
Sure.
over. How do you deal with it?
So look, I'm always looking at the big picture, and I'm always looking at kind of the long-term vision, and I'm very clear about that with my children, with my husband, with my family, and with my organization. So, as a mother, I want to do the best I can to give my children the best opportunities and resources to be contributing, happy, successful human beings. With my husband, I need him also to feel that he's getting the support from me, just as he's giving me the support. With my organization, I have responsibilities to my shareholders, to my employees, to my staff, to the customers, etc. So, on a daily basis, it's a concerted juggle of priorities. And at the end of the week, I review the priorities of that week and I see if I've reached equilibrium. So one day my priority might be my children, tomorrow my priority might be my staff, the third day my priority might be my husband. The reality is you can never have all at the same time. But insofar that you can juggle and reach equilibrium, then you've achieved it. Is it easy? It is not easy. Is it for everyone? It's certainly not for everyone. Am I able to do it? I am. Do I enjoy it? It's who I am. I'm blessed with that DNA. I'm blessed with the ability to multitask, to multi-juggle. And the reason I'm blessed with that, I fundamentally believe, is because I know what I want. And I said earlier, two very important days in your life, the day you're born and the day you discover your why. And when you know what your why is as a human being and what the legacy is that you want to create in this world, the rest is detail. The rest is irrelevant. So my why is to be the best mother I can be, the most admired and respected wife I can be, and an inspirational leader that creates impact in an ecosystem and in a region that is true to my heart and dear to my heart. And whatever I have to do to achieve that is irrelevant because it's just pieces of the puzzle.
Okay. Let me take you back to a question I asked earlier. What was the most difficult moment you faced in your professional career being an entrepreneur? If you can think about one, what was that?
Getting the best people on board.
Okay.
So in your drive for excellence and your drive for the highest standards, it's finding people who are aligned with that.
Okay.
That's been always a challenge.
And so how do you find the best people for the job or for the mission?
A lot of it is experience.
Okay.
A lot of it is first of all, finding people who have the skill set that you're looking for. The second is people who are aligned with your vision.
Okay.
And third is people who are aligned with your philosophy and your desire for excellence. You don't always get it right, like I said. I mean, you get it wrong sometimes, but when you get it right, it's a wonderful connection.
Excellent. Looking back at your journey now, I'm sure you've had days where you just kind of sit back and reflect on, everything that you've gone through. What does it feel like to take a look at everything that you achieved? Do you feel that you've achieved what you set out to do? Do you feel like you're just getting started? How do you feel it? Do you feel happy? Do you feel proud?
So, frankly speaking, my entire journey, interestingly enough, has never been, and I suspect will never be, about me. So I never sit back and reflect, oh, look at what I've done in my studies. Tick. Look at what startups I've started and done well. Tick. That's irrelevant to me. That's irrelevant. My achievements come in the needle that I've turned, the impact that I've created. So when my children got into the middle school, that's very, very competitive, and they were selected amongst hundreds of other students, that's an achievement. Not because I got in, but because I gave them the platform for them to be able to jump off. So that's an achievement. Another achievement is when my husband is healthy and happy. That's an achievement because he has that platform. So again, the answer to your question is, it's not really about me. It's about looking at my ecosystem and say, the things that I'm touching in my ecosystem, are they moving in the right direction?
Would you want your kids to be entrepreneurs, or would you want them to go down a different road, maybe?
My kids will choose what's right for them. I have 3 children who are very different, very different. Even my twin boys are very different. One of them, interestingly enough, wants to be an entrepreneur. He already has a long list of ideas that he wants to launch, and I fundamentally believe he'll do it, and he will make a mark. The other one wants to be a doctor. He's empathetic, he's kind, he loves children, and he will be a great doctor. My youngest, he's a great communicator. He's a potential leader. So they will be whatever they want to be. For me, it's less relevant. What's relevant is that they're contributing to the world they're living in, and they are not sitting idle.
Okay. Are they old enough to understand what mom does? And if so, how do they feel about it? I mean, are they happy with mom being the busy entrepreneur? Are they proud of what mommy's doing? Do they understand it and grasp it?
So I'll start with my youngest.
Sure.
So my youngest has been coming to my office for the past 7 years, maybe twice a week or 3 times a week. And just a couple of weeks ago, turned to me. So we have an open space plan in the organization. We have 3 offices only. So I was sitting in my office, and my son walks in, my 10-year-old, and after 7 years turns to me and says, "Mom, question for you. Are you the boss of this place?" And I said, "Why do you ask that?" And he said, "Why are you the only one with a door and an office?" So the answer to your question is my son, sees me in my environment, my startup environment. He knows that I'm involved in Mumzwolrd, and he knows that I'm leading something. But I have never sat in front of my son and said, "I'm a boss," or "I'm a manager," or "I'm a leader," because that's irrelevant. He sees his mom creating with a team around her who are phenomenal, and that's what's important. And it's just a couple of weeks ago that he realized, wait a minute, my mom's actually leading this. Now, my older 2 recognize this. You asked me a very important question, is do they mind my long hours? I go back to what I answered earlier. I am constantly in juggling to reach equilibrium. So I will never compromise them, just as I will not compromise my employees or my shareholders or the company. It's a juggle.
Sure. What advice would you give struggling entrepreneurs or current entrepreneurs, or maybe even failed entrepreneurs out there that are trying to achieve a dream today?
So struggling entrepreneurs, I know of no entrepreneur who hasn't struggled in one shape or form or for one period or other. I mean, you're struggling almost all the time, especially for the first few years. So struggling is what you've signed up for. Now, that's not to say you have to live in this eternal state of struggle. You have to overcome the struggles. But it's a natural part of your creating something that didn't exist. So the struggle comes with the unknown. The struggle comes with being out of your comfort zone. So the first thing I would say is we all struggle. You just need to keep on going. The second is surround yourself, and I cannot overstate that, surround yourself with phenomenal people. People who are better than you, smarter than you, and who represent strengths that are your weaknesses. Because you don't know everything, you never will know anything, and you certainly have many weaknesses as a human being. So you need to surround yourself with people who will lift you, just as you will lift them. That's the second. And the third is, again, if you're doing something that's getting you bad results enough times, stop doing it and shift gears and reevaluate. Oftentimes, entrepreneurs are so stuck in the rut of every day building their business that they don't step back and recognize that, wait a minute, I'm actually solving this wrong. I need to sit back and really innovate and be innovative and think of a more creative way to address this. And the final thing that I will say is, don't copy others. Don't copy others. There's no room in today's world of innovation and fast growth to see an idea that belongs to someone else and just cut and paste it and copy it. Okay. The world is moving too fast for that.
When you're saying don't copy others, how does that apply then to other concepts that exist here that have done quite well then? Like, Kareem, I think to an extent has copied Uber. Stars Play to an extent has copied Netflix.
Okay. So Kareem, I think if Mudassir was sitting here, he will beg to differ. Right. Kareem has not copied Uber. Okay. Kareem has gone in with a localized offering, executed in a localized way, and done with excellence. So that's why they're here today. Okay. So like I said earlier, you come up with a concept that's very different, or you figure out how you're going to do it in a way that's different and unique and better. Not just different, but better. And Kareem has done that beautifully. So again, copying others is short-lived. You're not looking at the big picture. You're going to crash and burn, and we've seen it. And we've seen players come in, you know, try to copy us, for example, come and go. We are in a world of innovation, and there's so much to innovate with. So let's move and change the world positively as opposed to just duplicate.
There you have it, guys. Another inspirational, great interview with Muna Ataya from Mumzwolrd. Thank you very much for being such a great guest with us today. And make sure you guys stay tuned in for another episode next week. Until then, this is your host, Omar, signing